Okay. Hi, everybody. We wanted to come on today to talk a little bit about our new container starting on the 21st, Pangea Rising, Fire and Ice. Of course, that's Pangea behind me and Valerie Elster. I'm joined by Kacie Clausen, and we're going to talk a little bit about what we're feeling and seeing in general. But this is really for the New Earth Blueprint, something that many of us have worked on. So we're feeling like it's time. We've been waiting to teach this. We've done a couple of Pangea Rising in the past and have been waiting for the templates or the architecture to align. So we're kind of calling in some of our architects and grid workers who have been working in some of these places. So welcome. um, Kacie, what else? We were going to talk about something else.
Mhm.
A grid's been coming in for us and a few others. Teotihuacan, which is a very important complex in outside of Mexico City. So that's something that wanted to be talked about today. Enshamba tushamba shashambi tande. So we're kind of calling in some of our monad group. I've talked about monads before, which is kind of the higher soul family. I'm going to say architecture is what's coming in right now, which is interesting. But it's the soul group that's working on specific areas. Lemuria has been coming up very strongly. I mean, it has been for years, but a lot of, I guess, placement and physical reunions on the land. So that's a lot, but that's what we're going to talk about. We'll see what else wants to come up. Do you want to open?
Yeah,
Anything else, Kacie?
I love that you mentioned the monad groups because
Yeah.
it's not only our individual group that's being connected,
Mm-hmm.
but all the monads that are starting to come together because they're holding the similar resonance.
Mm-hmm.
You will find that you're being drawn to the same areas because those are the same ancient timelines that you've lived before. And so you will energetically be called to certain places to reunite with those connecting souls that you're connected to. But this group is coming forward now specifically because we're noticing so many different earth changes happening. The volcanoes are for sure waking up, shifting, and moving. What I'm being called to before this container, which is interesting, the guides are asking me to go and connect with certain volcanoes to dismantle the Lemurian volcano grid
Mm-hmm.
because the volcanoes are locked inside of that grid and they need to be able to shift and move. The plates, the tectonic plates, need more space to be able to go to their energetic location that is calling to them first. Yeah, the
Okay.
volcanoes are activating and they're activating the remembrance inside
Yeah.
ourselves. Those who have worked with volcanoes in other lifetimes, you will feel a strong pull to them and you will begin to wake up to remember the intimate relationship we had with volcanoes,
Yes.
to the ocean, to Gaia herself. All of these ancient timepieces are coming back online because this is the time that it's like go time to get to work and to be able to make major changes and watch major changes happening around us.
Exactly. And the dragons showed up, some of the ancient. So, Kacie and I have been working this field for several years, especially the volcanoes. In one of our last containers, we did a lot with the Aegean, what I call the Aegean protocols. And then I actually went to Greece. Some of you might have remembered in February and March to, ground, land, reconnect on the physical. And also because a lot of the things that I do would be under the peace agreement category. And so, it's just a timing of, okay, now it's time to physically go. And it's like a formality to be on the ground, and then of course other things start popping up. Um, and many of you might be in the same boat. When you physically travel, you're not just doing one thing, you're doing multiple things, depending on your orientation, if you're more galactic or Earth, oriented. And Pangea, Pangea has been coming up for years. I think I did a container, I don't know how many years ago, because the physical, energetic, as Kacie was saying, the plates themselves are ready, and energetically, we're still all one, continent, the supercontinent. And so, because we've physically been separated, it doesn't mean that we still don't have those codes. And if you look at Pangea, and this is one example behind me, there's ones that are a little bit closer together where you're just seeing one big mass. So even though we're separated, our energy and some of those ley lines are still active, and they're under the water, right? Or they're under ice, which is why this is also about the ice, because the ice has been melting, shifting, moving, changing. Of course, it stores a lot of data. It has a lot of the ancient memory. And, Pangea was what, 250 million years ago? But it created the separation, created a chasm in energy. I'm going to say schism because that's what I'm seeing on an energetic, right, for not just humans, but also some of the other species. So as that ice is melting, it's changing the water table. And because we are becoming a water society once again, Atlantis, Lemuria, these ancient pieces, which many of us hold, these blueprints. And so as we uncover and release and activate, it also mirrors in our physical reality.
Yeah,
Uh,
the ice is
Go
super
ahead.
important because
I
like you're saying
know.
it's holding the ancient codes, but it's
Yes.
also holding the actual template for
Hmm.
the new earth grids,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because they're undistorted codes that are stored in the ice. They
Right.
haven't been,
We're pure. Hmm.
yeah, that's why it's super important. Um, Specifically the gateways that I'm being drawn to are all to the north right now. It's because of that, because the codes are still under the ice.
Yes.
And so those are the ones that are ready to come online once the kind of unwinding, unbinding has already taken place. Yeah.
I'm seeing the crud, so that must be the magma. I'm seeing some of which is why there's so much activity, of course, on the Ring of Fire, which a lot of you monitor and manage, etc. So there's a synchronization, which is really what Kacie and I saw last year. We have to get everything talking, right? All the volcanoes need to speak to each other to be able to load balance. This is a grid work. It's my grid work terms. To load balance the energy, so there's not a buildup in one area or another, because then that creates, these mega explosions. So it really has been about harmony and balance of Gaia herself. How do we shift into a new reality, new blueprints, and maintain that equilibrium so there's less likelihood of mass casualty and also mass extinction. Honestly, I mean, we've gone through that here on Earth, and it hasn't changed. Now we're just activating some of the deeper pieces, which, Pangea, as we talked about, is anchored in the ethers, and with the fluidity of the grids, the masses will rise again. So, me tande ko saval inde te chambani e katahute e nahala to te kai e zaman chinjaite shame shoshavisha te tampate andade e te katama no khatia de to koto utani e amano khota kasai sha mahulla el ela Takotoko otamanish tekataandete.
You were talking about finding our place again, which is great. And what kept coming in is like the dragons are stepping in to help that shift.
Yeah.
They're specifically coming in to help with a tectonic plate
Hmm.
and the eruption, the gases that are coming off with the eruption. They're helping to move that off planet so it doesn't affect us directly.
Right. I
And
say?
there's the primordial dragons, the ones that are starting to wake up. This is
Yeah.
also going to be part of the container because they play a major role as well.
Right. Those are the ancient dragons. I want to talk about Teotihuacan because I mentioned it, and it's something that I'm seeing as a physical trip travel in December. So it wanted to be spoken of today because there's some pieces there, especially the pyramid structure, Valley of the Moon. There's the temple. I mean, it's huge. I haven't been yet in this body, in this incarnation. But it has called me the last couple of years. It has come up around December. So there's definitely a connection with the time structures, the Mayan pieces. I've been working a lot of the Southwest in the past few years, especially in my grid work travels, kind of reconnecting a lot of the grid points and also linking um, like Mount Shasta and Santa Fe, where I just was recently. So now that a lot of the pieces, at least in my field in North America, now I'm being guided down to link them down to the South America grid point because those are very active and, of course, on the ley lines and on the volcanic um, fuego de something is coming up, which is which is also what Casey and I have been monitoring quite a bit is California and Washington and air and the north, right? All of the ley lines that come down. So those tectonic plates we know are shifting. And there's also the plates in the ocean where Casey is in Oregon. So there's a lot of monitoring that happens. Now, if you look at it going all the way down, right? It's going to be on those ley lines in Mexico and South America. So I'm seeing more activations on those lines, as well as some of the sun temples. I haven't been down to South America yet, but I am being called now to bring at least what I'm holding down south. So, anything at Teotihuacan you want to mention?
It feels important to mention the time and space recalculation. That's what's
Mhm.
going to be going forward before, that's why it's happening before the new year.
Yes.
Um, and also, they're wanting to connect through the portals of the suns, the
Yeah.
temples themselves.
Hmm.
It's like
Uh,
there's a disconnect there.
mhm.
The framework is there, but it's not functioning at this time.
We were
So
talking
that
about
needs,
this yesterday. Yeah, the
yeah.
temple itself of the moon is actually what I'm seeing is the issue here. And you were saying, and the dragons were coming in, so it's almost like it's a misuse, which of course a lot of the lunar um, temples and activities aren't really utilizing the pure stream of energetic consciousness that we work with and the movement toward more of the solar consciousness, which is what's happening now. Of course, we have been receiving so much through the sun, through those solar rays, and also through the activation of these ley lines. They do release codes. They've released some of the ancient templates, the primordial grids, the dragons, some of the other primordial species, and also, of course, us as ancients carrying certain, ley lines. I mean, I've said this before, we're the walking ley lines. So as we uncover and activate within our own framework, it allows those pieces to trickle or explode, depending on how many of us are together, which is why a lot of us haven't been together. There's been small groups, But the massive gatherings of the super activated, crew with very specific, um, you know, goals, that's not the right word, but remembrance maybe, um, that does bring together and create a very powerful field. And so then things start to unfold because we are together and our frequency, combined frequency emits like, oh, okay, it's okay for something to happen because we're in alignment. There's a congruency, which is a cymatic. I used to talk about that a lot because it creates a certain vibrational frequency within the group, which is why the groups are so important. Okay, anything else before we talk about actually what we're going to be doing in the 8 weeks?
No, let's talk about that. Let's talk.
Okay. Anyway, practical now. We are launching this container on the 21st, Sunday, 1:11 p.m. Pacific time. We're both on the West Coast. And then we're going to do it weekly, which, sometimes we do alternate weeks, but I'm feeling to have a momentum to do a weekly gathering. We're going to be doing a weekly Pangea Rising transmission. And we do these on Zoom, and we usually have a handout, and of course record it. So if you can't make one of it's going to be every Sunday at the same time, but we will be recording if you can't make it. Also, beyond the ice wall exploration. So another thing we've been working on and talk about, and we've done some containers is on the ice wall, the antediluvian before the ice wall. Again, a lot of those ancient pieces are in the ice, and as the ice is melting, Antarctica comes to mind. They are starting to, release, but also activate certain pieces that are buried under the ice. So there's some things that are coming, online, some things that are going offline. So that's also part of what we're going to be exploring. So we'll be doing some ice wall pieces, navigating the glaciers. That's another piece that has come up. Have we done glacier work? I don't know if I've done any. Not really. A little bit, maybe with the ice dragons, they would show up. So we're going to have some ice dragons participating in this. And again, the glaciers are melting, right? So what does that water contain? So when a glacier melts, of course, it's releasing the data along with creating a bit more of a rise in the water table, which is, of course, what people are talking about overall for Earth is we're kind of seeing shifts in the water versus the land. And that's kind of where the Pangea piece is, because we had different water tables and also some of the ancient oceans. So we're going to get into that a bit, as well as reconnecting and exploring the templates of Hyperborea. Kacie and I have worked with this before. The royal codes, Hyperborea, of course, I would call it an Atlantis template, an Atlantis timeline, a lot of frozen pieces. I started to see unfreezing. So we're going to get into Hyperborea and some of those ancient pieces, maybe giants. We definitely ran into some giants when we were working in Hyperborea. And also, interesting, I'm seeing the four corners. I don't know what that is. That might be, I just saw four.
Yeah, there's an anchoring piece around the four corners that wants to be part of
Right.
the.
And that came up, so Four Corners just came up when I was in Santa Fe because I drove from Northern California down. And so there's the Four Corners, the four states, which is more of a Native American piece. But I am seeing Four Corners. I think it's the poles.
Mhm.
Kind of saw the North Pole, South Pole. So there's something with the four poles, is what I just saw, that we're also going to be working on. As well as inner earth passages, activations with ice temples. This is kind of a working container activation and whatever else. wants to come in. Those of you who have worked with us before. So we just kind of, we lay out the overview, the foundation, but once we get into it, it's clear what we're going to be doing. Also, some language, ice language, retrieving codes from the ice chambers. I had seen this working in water in some of my Lemurian containers. A lot of different languages, languages of water, right? Which, you know, started to come out. different different languages in the mist and the volcanoes and the strata, and all different. So all of the languages that have been lost, which is something that, it seems to be my piece, is the language, is translating a lot of the ancient languages and also translating some of this, which you wouldn't, think of as language, right? Language of ice. So we're going to be retrieving codes from the ice chambers and also reviewing ancient timelines. Many of you probably hold these timelines, so your pieces might come up during this container. We're very open to see, and we're open to contributions, of course, during the class. Plus, each one of you will get a 30-minute one-on-one session with me or Kacie during the 8 weeks. So that's nice if things are coming up, that can't be discussed in the group. So this is a group container. We will have a private Facebook group. We put everything in there, and you can also ask questions and talk to other people in the group. And yeah, that's it. We have one person signed up already, which is exciting. Um, and we're curious to see who else is being drawn to this. And if you have any questions, let Kacie or myself know. We've got early registration until Sunday, the 14th. Um, I think that's it. Anything else?
Um, yeah, the group dynamics are super fun when we get people carrying
Yeah, they are.
different codes that come together. It
Yeah.
kind of reframes what we thought we're going to be doing in the group container, depending on the codes that each individual carries. And there are special activations for each person that comes in.
Yes.
And what keeps coming forward are those Hyperborean royalty codes. Those really want to come forward. So there are individuals that maybe don't have that activated yet in their system, or this maybe lights them up to be curious about that. Usually, if there's that curiosity, this is for you. And so there's going to be like a stepping back into the energetics of that for whoever steps into the group, which is amazing. It's great for your own soul journeys. And then just being in the group field with the mix of people that come forward, there's always codes that are shared amongst the people that show up, always extra gifts that we don't even know about. And I think that the journey just kind of unfolds with the magic of every person that says yes and jumps in. It's always fun and always something that we can't prep for.
I just want to mention one thing. Thank you, Kacie. For some
Mm-hmm.
reason, I wanted to look up Hyperborea, and I just saw a piece. They said um, Hyperborea was a distant, idyllic, and land located beyond the reach of Boreas, the Greek god of north wind. The Hyperboreans were depicted as living incredibly long lives, free from sickness and strife, and in perfect harmony. They sent offerings to the Greek sanctuary on Delos. I did not know that, and I was in Delos um, in March. That was a totally unexpected side trip, which happens when you do grid work. I ended up going to the island of Mykonos, and it was freezing cold, and it wasn't really even open. But I was guided to go there. It had come up in one of when Kacie and I were chatting, and I ended up going to Delos. And I think that was the purpose of the trip of going to that island because it was absolutely amazing. And I got 5 hours of alone time in on Delos. It's they say one of the most important archaeological sites in all of Greece. So it was a total fluke. Well, we know. It was totally aligned that I would get 5 hours of solo time on the island walking. I just took my time walking through all of the It was amazing. Ancient sites and places and sitting, in the arena and where Cleopatra and some of the other, ancient gods and goddesses would hang out. So that's interesting and of course makes sense because Hyperborea has come up quite a bit in our discussions, as well as before, antediluvian, before the ice, right? So all of that information and data is now becoming available to us and online, which is also a lot of the disclosure. As I've said in the past, Antarctica is disclosure. So I believe we're going to see a lot more of that as things really start to thaw and also declassify. So, all right. Anything else?
That's so exciting. I love that those codes are all coming back in.
Oh, no,
And it's perfectly aligned that you were in Mykonos to grab those templates, right? You have all of that stored in your system now
yay.
for this to come forward.
Yay. Okay, beautiful. So again, if you have any questions, reach out to me or Casey. We'll put the information on registration. And I think I mentioned, if you want to split up payments, there's a way to do it through Afterpay, through my checkout at Square. But let us know if anything else is coming up. And I think that's it.
Yeah, we're so excited to work with you and meet with you guys on the 21st. So
Yeah.
it's like time to get going again. My system is really excited to like get back
Yeah.
to
Like
work.
I said, we've been waiting months to teach this, and it's September. And that's another thing. You can't force things to happen. They happen when they're supposed to. And so we're very tuned in to when we're supposed to teach, when things are supposed to come in, when the codes are ready, when the group is ready, when the earth is ready. So it's very much a divine assignment and alignment on how things unfold. And like Casey mentioned, who shows up for this is also very important. We see who actually registers because the group dynamic and what each of you hold is very important. So it gives me an idea of what we're going to be doing based on who shows up. So if you're getting a pull that this is something for you, again, reach out to either Casey or myself with questions, and we look forward to seeing you in the container. So much love. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much. See you
Bye.
soon.
Aloha.